rod we had completed in the last class. Okay, so this is the actual connecting rod. We have discussed about the piston. Okay, piston rings. There will be 3 rings which we have discussed. Gudgeon pin or wrist pin we have completed. Okay, and connecting rod. Okay, so this connecting rod, small end is connected to the piston, large end is connected to the crankshaft. Now we have to discuss about the crankshaft. This is the actual pictorial view of a crankshaft. You can take down a rough sketch. Okay, so this is the flywheel end. One end of the connecting rod has a flywheel. The function of flywheel is to smoothen the rotation. Okay, it will store the energy whenever it is excess. Okay, so these are the bearings. Okay, here we will connect the shafts. Okay, so we have main journal bearing and thrust bearings will be there. Okay, so this is called as the front end, and this is the rear end. At the rear end, flywheel will be mounted, and there will be oil sealing. Okay, so that the whatever the oil is there in this casing, it should not escape out. So there will be a sealing. So now let us see what are the functions of this connecting rod. Sorry, crankshaft. Okay, it is also called as crank. Okay, as we discussed in the last class, the main function of crank and the connecting rod is to convert the rotational, okay, up and down motion into rotational motion. Okay, to convert the motion to one form to another form. So when the piston moves up and down, it pushes the offset shaft. You can just make an observe here. Okay, the shafts are not in line, they will be offset. 1, 2, then 3, 4. Okay, they will be offset, so that whatever up and down movement is there, whenever there is an up and down movement, it will be converted to a rotational movement. Okay, the piston causes a pulsing effect in the rotation, so there will be a pulsing effect. So in order to smoothen that, a flywheel is used, or sometimes vibration dampers will be used. Okay, so that with minimum vibration, okay, it has to work. Usually in large engines like a truck engine, okay, there will be a counterweight on the end. For example, if at the one end, if this is a crankshaft, okay, at one end if there is a big end of connecting rod connected, other end there will be a counterweight, okay, to balance. Otherwise the rotating masses will not get balanced. Okay, in order to balance it, there will be a counterweight. So usually this crankshaft is made up of either alloy steel or cast iron. Okay, it is a single molded structure. Okay, it consists of journals, that is bearings, what we saw in the sketch. Okay, crank pins, counterweights, and oil holes and crank webs. These are some of the components. We will not discuss these components in detail, as we have to understand only the functioning of crankshaft and what material is it made up of. Okay, so these are the counterweights usually used, okay, in order to balance the mass. Okay. So next, coming to the valves. So we have discussed about the piston rings, gudgeon pin, connecting rod, and crankshaft. So these are the main parts, right? So you can just see if working here. So when this is the connecting rod, when it moves up and down. Okay, so this is the crankshaft. Okay, so it's a one-dimensional view. This is the crankshaft. So when it moves up and down, it starts rotating. So where multiple shafts can be, multiple connecting rods can be placed on a common crankshaft. Okay, so now we have to discuss about the valves. Okay, we have completed about the cylinder, the important part, cylinder block. Piston we have completed. Here we will be having the piston or gudgeon pin. Okay, that we have completed. This is the connecting rod, this is the crankshaft. So all these important components we have discussed so far. Now we have to discuss about the inlet and outlet valves of an engine. Okay, you can see a cam operated mechanism which is operating the valves. So the one of them is the inlet valve and the second is the outlet valve. Okay, if it is a petrol engine, the mixture of air and fuel enters through the inlet valve, and after the combustion process, the products of combustion will come out. If it is a diesel engine, only air enters here. At the end of the combustion, compression stroke, here you have a spark plug. You can see this spark plug is related to petrol engine. At the end of compression, there will be yellow color spark. You can notice here. If it is a diesel engine, instead of spark plug, there will be a fuel injector. Droplets of fuel will be injected. Okay. So now we will discuss about the functioning of valves. So any engine cylinder has two valves usually. Okay, one valve for the inlet. As I discussed, air fuel mixture enters if it is a petrol engine, or if it is a diesel engine, only the filtered air enters into the engine, and through the exhaust valve the products of combustion, the byproducts of combustion will be moving out. Okay, so the valves also must seal the combustion space tightly. This is one of the important criteria. There should be no leakage of gases. Just imagine if it is a diesel engine, the compression ratio will be in the order of 1:18 to 1:22. Very high pressure will be built in the cylinder. Even at that high pressure, okay, these valves should not get open and they should not allow the gases to move out, or they should not allow the outside gases to move in. Okay, they have to seal the combustion space properly. Okay, in a petrol engine, air fuel mixture admits into the cylinder with lesser speed compared to velocity of exhaust gases. Okay, so inlet valves are made larger than exhaust valves. So usually the diameter of inlet valves will be more as compared to that of exhaust valves. If you ask why, okay, the air fuel mixture enters under vacuum. Whenever the piston moves downward, there will be a small amount of vacuum created, so that suction takes place. So the velocity of gases entering will be very lesser. So if you allow more diameter, okay, of the inlet valve, more quantity can enter and it can fill the cylinder. Whereas the exhaust gases will be under very high pressure. Okay, they are compressed to very high pressure, so that the pressure built in will be high. There will be high pressure, so that even though if the valve diameter is lesser, they can move out quickly. See, these valves will operate in terms of fractions of second. Within that fraction of second, the gases has to enter and leave. If the pressure is very high, within a fraction of second, the gases can leave out. If the pressure is low, it takes more amount of time. So what we have to do, whenever the suction pressure is low, the diameter will be made larger. Okay, so the inlet and exhaust valves are 45% and 38% of the cylinder bore. What do you mean by cylinder bore? Say, assume this as a cylinder. Okay, and this is a piston. Just a rough sketch I am showing you. This is the piston. So here you will be having the inlet valve and the outlet valve. Okay, so this is the bore diameter. Cylinder bore diameter, inner diameter. So usually inlet valve will be 0.45 into D. Okay, and this will be outlet valve will be 0.38 into D. So, and I have explained you the reason why. Okay, the movement of the valves is actuated by cams. Usually in kinematics of machines, you have studied the working of cams. Okay, and in the video also you have seen. Just a minute, I'll just go back once. In this you have seen, this is the cam arrangement. Okay, it's an eccentric mechanism. Whenever it pushes, you can see how it works, right? So there are two levers. Okay, it alternately operates the inlet and outlet valves. So the operation is done by a cam mechanism. Okay, the inlet and exhaust gas valves use different materials. Next question is why? The question comes is, why can't we use a common material? Again, see, similar to this first reason, you can just note the inlet gases temperature will be very less. Okay, it's atmospheric air directly entering, or if it is a petrol engine, it is a mixture of air and fuel. Okay, so maximum temperature that you can expect is not beyond 500 degrees centigrade, because this valve will be in direct contact with the engine, which is very hot, so that heat might get radiated or conducted. Okay, but whereas exhaust valves, if you consider, the burnt gases will be moving out of the exhaust valve. So the burnt gas temperature will be very, very high. It may be of the order of 2500 to 3000 degrees centigrade. Okay, so to prevent the burning or damage of the material, usually they are made of different materials. So the inlet valve can be made of material which can withstand a max temperature of 500 degrees centigrade, whereas an exhaust valve will be made up of material which can withstand a temperature of 3000 to 3500 degrees centigrade. Okay, so that their diameters will be different, their material will be different. Okay, usually what materials are used? Okay, silicon chrome steel, okay, is the material used for inlet valves. Okay, if you ask why, again it is based on experimentation, what temperature they can withstand. Based on that, okay, silicon chrome steel, okay, it has certain combination of carbon, nickel, manganese, silicon, and chromium. Okay, various materials are there for inlet valves. So for exhaust valve, molybdenum is it's a metal. It is added in good proportion so that it has a property of withstanding high temperatures. Okay. Sometimes austenitic steels are used for exhaust valves. What do you mean by austenitic steels? You just open iron carbon equilibrium diagram of MSM. You will come to know. Okay. So austenite, martensite are different combinations. Okay. So why these austenitic steels are used? Because in order to make it corrosion resistance. Again, the next question arises is why not inlet valves are made up of corrosion resistant material? Why only outlet valves are made? Because usually only the fuel will be in contact with the inlet valve, whereas the outlet valve consists of burnt gases. Okay, they may react with the material and cause corrosion. So in order to avoid that, extra care should be taken for the outlet valve. Okay, so that it has to be corrosion resistance. Okay, so these are some of the materials used. See, I am again telling you at the end of the module, you have to make a list of materials. Each part of the engine, what material? Because sometimes you can see for 10 to 12 marks, they'll ask you the materials of different parts of the engine. Okay. So the engine valves may be classified into poppet valve, sleeve valve, and rotary valve. Three types are there. Okay. So poppet valve, one by one we will discuss. Just take down this sketch. Yeah. Please make a note of rough sketch. So as we discussed, there are three types of valves: poppet valve, sleeve valve, and rotary valve. So here we will discuss only about poppet valve as per our syllabus, and that is the most popularly used one. Okay, because it has a self-cooling mechanism. How I will explain with the help of this sketch. It has a self-cooling mechanism also. So that even though there are very excess temperatures under continuous operation, the valve will not get damaged. Okay, so please make a note of the sketch. I think it is done. Is it done?
Yes, sir.
Sir, it is done, sir.
Okay. So please then it's a puppet valve. The name is given because of its motion. Okay, it will be popping up and down inside the cylinder head. So the name puppet valve is given. It also looks similar to mushroom, hence it is also called as mushroom valve. Okay, it consists of primarily a head and a stem. So head will be inside the cylinder. It will open and block. Stem will have directly connected it to the cooling mechanism as well as the cam. Okay, so it as we discussed, the outlet valves definitely require some cooling mechanism. So the gases will be in the order of 2000 to 2500 degrees centigrade. So you can expect the valve to reach a temperature of 750 to 900 degrees centigrade. Okay, so there should be certain cooling mechanism. So in this puppet valve there is an integrated cooling mechanism, right? So how we will discuss with the help of the sketch. You can see here the stem. So this is the actual head of the puppet valve. So this portion is called as the head of the puppet valve. This will be fit completely into the cylinder head. Okay, and this will be rotating inside and outside. Whenever the valve is open, it moves in. When the valve is closed, it will be moving out. Okay, so around this valve, there will be certain cooling jackets. Only around the stem there will be cooling jacket, cylinder head cooling jackets will be there, which will help in cooling. So what happens when the piston enters in, when this valve enters inside, if the temperature exceeds certain limit, so this portion is made hollow. Okay, and sodium salt is filled into this valve. Okay, so to a 40% of the volume of this empty space. Say for example, so this is 10 meter square, say 0.1 meter square area, 40% of that will be filled with sodium salt. So whenever the temperature exceeds, the excess temperature will be taken away by this sodium salt. It is a solid salt. It gets converted into a semi-liquid and it will occupy the complete area. Okay, so when the valve moves out, when the exhaust valve is blocked and this moves out, what happens? So this excess heat will be given out to the water jacket. So when the heat is given out, again it forms a solid wax like thing and again it will settle at the bottom. Okay, so this is the mechanism of operation. By this mechanism, you can cool the entire valve up to 100 degrees centigrade. You can reduce the temperature of valve up to 100 degrees centigrade. Okay, so just the inside structure is made hollow and 40% of the volume is filled with sodium salt. Okay, so for example, if you assume this as a cylinder head, okay, here inlet valve is there. Okay, and we will assume this as the outlet valve. So this is the cylinder head and this is the piston. So this is the piston. So this is the cylinder head. Okay, you can see this is the head region. Okay, so this portion. So whenever it moves in, excess temperature will be transferred to the stem. The salt melts and it becomes a semi-solid. Whenever it moves out, so here there will be cooling jacket. In the cooling jacket, it will give out the excess heat. So it is an integrated cooling mechanism. I hope you are following.
Yeah, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is the functioning of puppet valve. Okay, same thing is explained here. Now we have discussed about valves. Next we have to discuss about the actuating mechanisms. How these valves get actuated. Definitely it is because of the cam. So valves located in the cylinder head are operated by a eccentric projection called as cams. You have studied in COM how these cams work. Usually there are three types of valve actuating mechanisms. One is side valve mechanism, the second is the overhead valve mechanism, and third is the overhead inlet and side exhaust valve mechanism. So third is the combination of first and second. Okay, now we have to study about these two mechanisms in detail. So third is just the combination of these two. Please make a note of it. The next topic is valve actuating mechanisms. Please make a note. We'll start with the first one, side wall mechanism. Okay, why this name is given? Usually this mechanism is used for L head engines. What do you mean by L head engine? The shape, it looks like an L. The head will be somewhat offset and it looks like an L, inverted L. So it is called as an L head engine. So in this type, inlet and exhaust valves are mounted in a single row. Okay, and they are operated from the crankshaft. Okay, this mechanism is absolute. So nowadays this is not used. Okay, why? Because we prefer more of multi-cylinder compact engines. Okay, so there will be 4 cylinders side by side. You cannot plan such a mechanism as the engine cannot be compact. So this is an olden day design. So why it is called a side wall? Because usually if this is the cylinder axis, okay, parallel to this axis there will be a wall. Okay, you can see here on the head L region, there is a wall mounted. Whenever this cam moves down, okay, so this will be pushed and it will move down so that the inlet gases can move out. Okay, similarly, there will be an exhaust section also, right? So this mechanism is absolute as I discussed you because the engine cannot be compact. Okay, so various parts also you can clearly see in this sketch. Okay, so this is actually the wall. These are the springs. Why the springs are used? As we discussed, once after this valve is closed, it has to fix rigidly so that the gases should not escape out of the cylinder. So there are spring loaded valves and there is a valve tappet, okay, which connects the valve to the cam mechanism. Usually this cam is operated by the crankshaft in turn. Okay, whatever we discuss the crank, that crank will operate this valve depending on the timing. Okay, so this is called a side valve mechanism. The word side valve is given because the valve is mounted aside of the cylinder. So the axis of the valve and the cylinder are parallel, hence it is called as the side valve mechanism. Just take down a rough sketch. Please make a note. Please make a note. Okay, we'll move to the next mechanism. Okay, that is overhead valve mechanism. So this is the side. Already we have discussed this. So this is overhead valve mechanism. Why this name overhead valve is given? Over the head of the cylinder, the valve is mounted. Okay, so over the head, the valve is mounted. Hence, it is called as overhead mechanism. Just take down the rough sketch. If you combine these two mechanisms, then it is called as a overhead valve inlet and side outlet mechanism, the third one. So here the whatever mechanism we can see over here, this portion, if you club here, okay, so one entry will be overhead, exit will be side. Okay, you can take down the sketch now. Overhead valve mechanism. Okay, so as we discussed, it is called as a overhead valve mechanism because over the head, okay, there will be an inlet. You can see here again, this will be the piston, okay, which is piston cylinder arrangement. So this will be the valve mechanism. Okay, there is a rocker arm in COM. You can clearly study how this mechanism works. Whenever this is lifted by the crank, okay, one end of the crank, whenever this is lifted, this moves up so that this rocker arm moves down. Okay, this rocker arm always has a movement in the reverse direction to that of the arm that it is connected to, or the shaft it is connected to. Whenever this moves up because of the crank action, so this rocker arm moves down, it exerts pressure so that the valve gets open. Whenever this moves down, the shaft moves down, and this rocker arm moves up in the reverse direction and allows the valve to sit in its seat clearly. Okay, so this is the working of overhead valve mechanism. So this mechanism, as we have discussed, some of the advantages of overhead valve mechanism are it has high volumetric efficiency, leakage will be almost lean, linear air fuel mixtures can be burned. Leaner means more amount of air and less amount of fuel will be there. Even such mixtures can be easily burned, and you can use high compression ratios as there is a reverse movement of rocker arm. Whatever the pressure is applied, okay, the valve doesn't get open. So you can adopt very high compression ratios. Okay, so these are the some of the advantages. Next, coming to the next topic, combustion chamber designs. First